Hey guys, my name is Jason with Non-Baker Mining and Metals, and I have a special surprise today. All you guys thought I was done with Jeff Williams stuff, but I've got two more experiments I'm going to do with this stuff. The first experiment we're going to do is we're going to take some of his high-grade specimens, super rich stuff. We're going to try and figure out which method is the best way to clean up these specimens. The second one is I still have one bag left of that super rich stuff that he sent up from our trip to Nevada. I'm going to take this whole bag of ore, I'm going to smelt the whole thing down, and we're going to figure out if really truly smelting a whole bag of ore can get 2 or 3 times more gold than just crushing it up and running it through a gravity system. For those of you who haven't seen the previous videos or haven't seen these are the specimens we're going to be working with today. And man, there's just some really nice gold sticking out of some of these. There's gold everywhere. And each one of these pieces of rock has different gold specimens sticking out the side. So I've got a whole grab bag of stuff. I've got vinegar, strong vinegar. I've got sulfuric acid. I've got, what's this, muriatic acid. We've got some Drano, which is sodium hydroxide, CLR, Clorox, and finally some of my super strong hydrogen peroxide. Now I'm going to take each one of these samples, put them in a different little cup, and then I'm going to cover them with each one of these things. We're going to leave them for a day and see what works best for cleaning these samples. We've got all of our containers here labeled. So there we've got our various samples in each cup. Okay, prediction time. Which one do you guys think is going to work the best? Leave me a comment down below on which one of these 7 is going to work the best to clean up our gold, make it nice and shiny, and also clean the quartz up, take all the rust off it. Holy moly, look at this. I was over there looking at specimens, looking for specimens, and the H2O2 is bubbling like crazy. I think it's leaked out. It's starting to get onto the pan there. It's going nuts. It's hot. So let me do something with that here. Let me move that over on the ground. Okay, well, it looks like it ate through the first little cup I had. I got it in 2 or 3 more, and it's sitting on the ground now. But yeah, it's reacting. It's going crazy. I don't know what that thing's going to look like when it's all said and done. The rest of them, they've only been in 5-10 minutes. Pretty benign, not doing really anything. Okay, I'm going to proceed the same way I did last time with the samples. I'm going to screen out everything that's over 1/2 inch. So I want to look for those specimens because they're worth way more than just crushing them up. There's our 1/2 inch minus. There's our 1/2 inch plus. I'm going to get this wet and take a look at it and see if I find any specimens. I'll let you know. I did find a few specimens that I added to our pile. There was one here that I just broke open. I'm going to show you on camera when I broke the rest open here. But anywhere there's this little vug, these little impurities in the quartz, these little pockets, is where I was finding lots of gold. So let me see what happens. Let's see if I can do this. And let's see, I think that's a lot of gold sticking up there. What I really want to do is peel back this piece. I want to expose this little vug here. And I want to be kind of gentle about it. As gentle as I can with a hammer. But that is where we were finding the super rich high-grade gold stuff. Yeah, see? There's a bunch of gold there. I think there's just a ton of gold right in there. I think there's a bunch up here that I broke off when I opened it up. So that is where we were finding it, in these little vugs. Well, there is all of our sample. We're going to take 2 pounds off for the bucket, so that's 16 pounds, or right about 7 kilograms worth of stuff. Well, now we're going to crush our sample through this little lab jaw crusher here. Get it down to 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch minus, and then we'll get it smelted. All right, there's our stuff crushed down to about 1/4 inch minus. Now we'll mix up some flux with it, put it in the crucible, and we'll fire it. Well, we've got, whatever I said, 16 or 18 pounds of that stuff. I've only got 10 pounds of borax, and I was going to use borax and a little bit of carbon to reduce the lead that's in there already as an oxide. But I don't know if I have enough borax, so I may need to go to the store and get some more borax. So let's see how this goes. Awkward. Oh, actually, that didn't work too bad. Here's what we got. I'll give it a little stir around and see what it looks like. Well, I just remade my furnace here. This has a number 40 crucible in it, and it's nothing more than kale wool wrapped in a cylinder. Here's the crucible inside. Here's a look down from the top. Got a couple layers of fire brick down there. I started using cement as kind of a liner for the bottom of the furnace. It helps to soak up any little bit of spill or boil over that you have, and it also makes it so it doesn't stick to the fire brick so bad when you put it back in. So we've got our stuff mixed up here. Well, I almost forgot, but I caught myself. I've added a bunch of sawdust in here for carbon. Hopefully that'll work to reduce that lead oxide. That'll act as a collector metal for the gold, and it'll collect down at the bottom of our crucible. We'll get it in this number 40 crucible and see how full we are. I only want to bring it up to about 2/3. I don't want to bring it up too much and have it boil all over this new furnace. Well, it looks like this is going to be a 2-smelt operation. I've got it about 2/3 or 3/4 full there, and I've still got probably half my material over here. Once it's good and hot, we're going to take it. We'll pour it in this big old cone mold here. All the lead and gold is going to collect down at the very bottom of that inverted pyramid. The slag will float on top with no gold in it. And then when it's cooled down, we'll knock that piece of lead off, Q-pel the lead away, and get our gold. Well, my first batch is still in the furnace. It's not going so well. It's got some big chunks in there that I can feel when I stir it with the iron rod. So I took the stuff, the second batch, and I crushed it down through our little disc mill. So it's, fine to coarse sand. It should melt quite a bit better in the flux. Yeah. Here's all our samples from yesterday. It's been 24 hours. We got some different colors going on. But let's get them out, washed off, and see what they turned out like. All right, let's see if I can work around the camera here and grab these things. Here's our first one. This is the one in the bleach. That came out okay. So there's the bleach. Here's the CLR one. You got a little bit of gold down here. Nice little chunk up there. Still a lot of rust on this one. Red rust, rusty color. There's a little more gold down there, it looks like. There's some gold over there. This is a pretty good sample. But it's not cleaned up very well. So I don't think CLR is going to be our best one. There's muriatic. That shined up pretty nice. Took off a lot of the rust. There's still a little bit there, but you got little pieces of gold down here. Those chunks sticking up are nice and gold colored now. So muriatic didn't do too bad. Sulfuric is next. There's a nice piece of gold there. Lots of little pieces down in here too. This one might be the best so far. Sulfuric took off a lot of the rusty red color. A lot of the gold is now real shiny in comparison to what it was. You can see a lot of it now. This one is 30% vinegar. And that is a really nice specimen. They cleaned it up some. You can see there's some gold back over here. But man, that is a really nice piece of gold sticking up there. But I don't think that's the best one. We got Drano. This is an interesting one because it's a strong base. All the other ones we've used so far are acids. Yeah, I cleaned it up pretty nice, actually. The gold is much more visible now, I think. Boy, another really nice specimen. That's a big hunk of gold stuck on that quartz. But the Drano actually did pretty good considering it's a strong base. So that didn't do too bad. Still a little bit of red pockets here and there. But there is the hydrogen peroxide. Cleaned it up pretty good. You can see the gold, nice and shiny there. Some more gold back here on the backside. So that didn't do too bad. I think the winner, though, probably the winner is going to be either the sulfuric acid, which is in my right hand, or the muriatic acid, which is in my left hand. Those two came the cleanest. So what are some of your guys' favorite techniques for cleaning up your gold specimens? I've been trying different acids and bases. If you guys have a surefire way to clean this stuff up, leave me a comment below. I'd like to hear about it so that we can all figure out what the best way to clean up these gold specimens is. Well, here's a quick little update. I've got the muriatic one here, and that actually has turned a little bit green. So that's not good. We don't want green stuff on our samples. I really think out of all 7 of these, the sulfuric did the best job. Well, here's the results from our very first pour. And this is kind of textbook way not to do it. 2 things. When I tipped over the cone mold, the lead wasn't quite solidified. So I got a little cone at the bottom, and then there was a bunch of molten lead that ran all over the place. But I needed to do that because I had that other pour coming right away, and I needed to get the cone mold cleaned out. So that isn't ideal. But look at this stuff. This is the stuff that had the 1/4-inch pieces in it. And that is absolutely not what you want. You want all that dissolved. You want it to look like this, where it's just black, clean slag. There you go. Now you can see it. But just black slag, nothing like this. All these pieces are little pieces of quartz and silica and rock that didn't get dissolved in our slag. So, and then look here, there's pieces of lead in there. There's little bits, so it didn't all collect down at the bottom. See, there's some more, a big pocket of lead. So we got to redo this one. This one did not come out right. So I'm going to take this stuff, get it crushed back down, and I got another little smelting experiment I'm going to do with this stuff just to try something different and see if it works. But yeah, I would call this pretty much a failure at this point. Here's our second pour that I ground up a lot finer. And this looked a lot better when we poured it. So I have higher hopes that this came out better than our first one. And it's been all night, so this is cooled down. There should be a lead button at the bottom. So let's get it flipped over and see what we have. got it all knocked out of there. Here's the bottom. Well, it's hard to tell, but that was the bottom of the cone. And I found this little teeny tiny bead in there. And it doesn't weigh very much. It's not very dense, doesn't feel like. So we're going to have to re-smelt this with more lead collector, because that's just not enough. We didn't have enough collector metal. I thought there'd be more of that lead oxide in there that would get reduced, but unfortunately it didn't happen that way. So now we've got 2 smelts to do again. I'll get them all crushed up through the crusher and back in the crucible. Well, we're about to get these crushed down. And one thing I don't think I got on video from yesterday is with this stuff, I used straight borax, melted it down, and I got those big chunks in it. And so what I did with this one is I ground it down finer, and I added about 5 pounds of soda ash to it to try and help eat up more of this silica content over in this one. The soda ash will help get rid of some of this silica. We'll have everything get dissolved. We'll have the lead at the bottom as a collector, and we'll hopefully get all of Jeff's gold back. Now, a lot of people have left comments on some of my past videos where I'm doing experiments like this. You know, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it to do it this way. It's not economically feasible. And you're right. I am not doing this to find the most economical way to get the gold out of this stuff. I'm most interested in the experiments, in the learning process, figuring out what works, what doesn't. I mean, clearly I've made some mistakes on this one. And so that's one of the important parts for me about making these videos is if anyone out there sees something that I'm doing that you think there's a better way to do it, let me know. Leave me a comment down below, because one of my goals in this whole thing is to get the knowledge out there so that people who are trying this stuff learn from my mistakes, learn what works, what doesn't, and so we can all just be better at smelting in general and gold recovery. Well, we're all cooled down. It's the next day, so we're going to tip this over, see what's in there. And I was lucky enough to get both pours back in this one pot and pour them. So all the stuff, that whole bag is in here with the lead and everything else. I put it all back in. So we'll see what we get out of here. When we tip it over, I'm hoping to get a cone of lead at the very bottom, and then we'll get the gold and silver out of that. One other thing too is I sprayed the mold with WD-40, and really any oil will work, but it creates a little carbon barrier so the thing didn't stick. I had it sticking here on one of the earlier pours. Well, let's see what we got here. Here's our lead. So that all came down to the bottom real nice. This stuff is really sharp, but our slag is nice and glassy. It's not full of rock bits or lead beads or anything. So that is what a smelt is supposed to look like. That's some nice looking slag right there. So let's go figure out how to get the gold and silver out of this part. Well, our lead pyramid here weighs just about 800 grams. So now I'm going to do a little experiment. I don't want to cupel all this away. That's just a ton of lead to get rid of. So now I'm going to do something and see if it works. I'm going to melt the lead down, pour it into water, and flake it and make a huge surface area. Re-smelt it down with a bunch of sodium or potassium nitrate and see if I can oxidize away a bunch of this lead, and we'll get down to maybe a couple hundred grams of lead, and that'll save us a lot of time and a lot of energy and stuff with the cupelling process. Holy cow, that really gained a lot of volume. Look at all that. My hope was I could put it back in this crucible here, but I think we've got more volume that'll fit. Maybe if I cram it in there. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I do it in 2 sections. But now I'm going to add this with potassium nitrate and maybe a little bit of borax and try and oxidize a lot of this lead. Well, we got our crucible here. I don't know if this is the smartest thing, but this is some of that potassium nitrate. I'm going to put a little bit of that on the bottom. The crucible's still pretty hot. Let's see what happens here. Anything happening? No, that looks pretty benign. So now let's take some of our lead. Get it in there like that. Didn't do a very good job. I'll pick up the pieces I spilled, mix it in there with some potassium nitrate, and we'll fire it up. Well, this is either going to be really cool or it's not going to work at all. But you know, there's nothing. I can't hurt it really, right? I mean, even if this doesn't work at all and nothing oxidizes, I'm still going to get a brick of lead at the bottom. So I'm not too terribly worried about screwing it up. But I think it's really important to keep trying stuff. I mean, let's try this. If it doesn't work, that's fine. We know it doesn't work, but I don't think we need to be scared of, you know, trying it or losing our gold or anything like that. So I'm going to put this in the furnace, melt it down. I'll pour it into the cone mold just to get the lead at the bottom. It was a pretty good experiment, actually, with trying to process down the lead. I learned a couple things. I started with about half the lead at first, about 400 grams, put it in there with just potassium nitrate. And what happened is all the lead melted and went to the bottom before the potassium nitrate could actually exsolve any oxygen. The lead pooled at the bottom and then all the oxygen came off and we didn't get a whole lot of reduction in the overall volume of the lead. I needed the lead to stay suspended in the flux, essentially, so it could react with the oxygen. And so what I did was I added some soda ash and silica sand, because I know those have a much higher melting point than lead and potassium nitrate. So my theory was that would keep everything suspended and high surface area, essentially. And as the potassium nitrate melted and released all its oxygen, it would reduce the lead and we would have a lot less of it when we went to pour it. And that actually is what happened. We ended up with about 100 grams of lead at the end of the second experiment, whereas the first experiment, we ended up with about 380. We removed about 3/4 of the lead, which is encouraging. For now, we got the lead going, cupelling in my propane furnace. I have a really strong oxygen-rich environment in there, so I don't have a whole lot of propane going in, and I've got the blower turned up all the way so that lead oxidizes, gets absorbed into the cupel, and then we should be left with just our precious metals. Well, they're both pretty much done cupelling in there, so I'm going to let them cool down in the furnace, and then I'll pull them out when they solidify. Pretty nice looking buttons. Let's get them cooled off and weighed. Nice. Here's our 2 beads. I checked, we had 7 kilograms worth of material. And 6.4, 6.5 grams. All right, guys, we'll go over a little bit of math here. We ended up with 6.45 grams out of 7 kilograms, or 0.007 metric tons. So when you divide those, we ended up with 920 grams per ton is what that assay is. At 66%, based on the color of those beads, 66% gold, figuring we got 610 grams per metric ton. Now, I did a previous video where we just crushed them and ran it on the shaker table, panned out the concentrates. We got 6.4 grams from 14.5 kilograms. Based on the color, we figured it was about 80% gold, and that's 360 grams per metric ton. So you're almost double by doing it this way, by smelting. All right, guys, well, a couple important things to go over here. Even though this looks like it might be twice as much by smelting, this isn't really an apples to apples comparison. What you would really want to do is you'd want to take a bulk sample of 20, 30 kilograms, grind it up, do a gravity recovery on half on 15 kilograms and do smelting on the other half. So you're getting the same sample. This bag may have been from a richer spot. I mean, take these with a grain of salt. There's some interesting findings here, but don't be like, oh my goodness, Jeff's going to get twice as much gold if he smelts it down, or your shaker table lost half as much gold because we didn't grind it fine enough. This is kind of a first trial basis. This is a starting point for Jeff to start, testing and getting some information about his ore. Another thing that I always get asked about is how much did it cost? I used about 10 to 15 gallons of propane for this whole operation. So that was about $60 or so roughly in US. And how long did it take? Well, this whole thing took me about 3 days actually. And I screwed up and I played around and I did some experiments. But if you were going to do this in a production time scale type of thing and you got it figured out right from the start, you can probably do this whole experiment in a day. It doesn't take that long. The cupelling part, cupelling away that 500 grams of lead or so, took 2 hours in those 2 cupels. So that gives you kind of an idea on how long that took. But those are some of the questions I always get asked, so I wanted to address them here. So Jeff, we've come full circle. I've ran out of ore for you. I don't have anything left to play with. Next time I'm down your way, I really want to get back into that mine and get some more high grade. You're right, I got the gold fever a little bit here. I really want to thank you again for having me down. This is kind of the final video in this whole series that I've done over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I hope you guys learned something. I certainly learned something. I learned something almost every smelt I do. And it's always fun getting gold and silver at the end of the day. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.